Is marriage hard or is life just hard? The other day I was scrolling on Instagram and I saw this creator who has a big following, and they were talking about how a lot of people say that marriage is hard, right? There is a learning curve, or there are different things that are hard because you're melding lives together, etc., etc. But she actually was saying that maybe it isn't marriage that's hard, but that it's life that's hard. And marriage actually is part of life, but how being married to your best friend or being married to the person who God created for you can actually make life easier instead of harder. And I love that kind of way of rephrasing it, because I think that we hear a lot of times that marriage is hard, or all the things that you have to change about yourself, or all of the things that you have to deny yourself, and all of the discipline and everything that goes into a marriage that actually works, is it takes virtue. It's not a walk in the park, right? It's not leaning into our selfish desires in any way. So, in that way, technically, one could see it as hard if they're looking to just fulfill their every whim, to have whatever they want in the forefront, right? It could seem hard because you have to communicate with another imperfect human being as an imperfect human being, and somehow create a life that's harmonious. And you're making decisions and they're making decisions, and you're not always on the same page. And things can result from that is hard. But I love the reframe that maybe it isn't actually marriage that's hard, but it's life that's hard. And marriage can actually bring a lot of joy and a lot of ease into life that you don't have if you remain single. I've also seen another thing on social media a lot this week about how there's like a push on young women to get married and have kids before we're 25, because they know that when we reach 25 and our brain fully develops, we realize it's not such a good idea. And I've seen this everywhere, and I don't know where it comes from. I don't know who came up with this, but it is a load of baloney. And actually, it's really funny because I was talking to, in my Dearly Beloved program, we were talking, that's my program for marriage preparation, and I was talking to the group, and there was a question, and the question was about like when you are having these questions, like there's a lot of people in our world, young people, that say, I don't want to have kids. And for marriage, it's really important that you're open to life. That's actually one of the essential elements to make a marriage valid. And so the question was like, okay, but if someone's not open to life, like they don't want kids, can they still get married? And the answer is no, technically, because the openness to life is essential to marriage. But the real question kind of is like, is this a time period that they are thinking that they don't want children because they want to live a more self-driven life, because they have goals that they want to achieve ahead of time? And it's interesting because I've seen a trend. I've seen a trend of 20-something-year-olds really saying, I want to dedicate my time to my career, or I want to go travel the world, or I just want to have some time with my girlfriends or my guy friends, whatever the case may be, and not have kids right away. Or they will say, like, I don't want kids at all. But there is a change in somewhere in the 30s where that shifts and their mentality has shifted. And we've seen this in psychology. We've been following it with different studies. And I do think that the trend has become a little bit later in life because of many reasons. And we could get into that. But for our purposes here, There's this trend now in someone's 30s where they're realizing, okay, let me take a step back outside of my selfish desires and like, what do I want in this moment to what do I want the rest of my life to look like? Do I want children to share my life with? Do I want people close to me when I'm getting old? Right? All of these things. What do I want my social life to look like? Do I want friends in a similar life stage as me? Because now all my friends are married and have kids. So if I want that, then I need to be in that life stage too. Or maturing and realizing like this world is not for our ultimate fulfillment, but something that will make it more better and more full of life is to commit to one person and to have children with them, to really have this drive that is in with each one of us because it's in our nature, especially the male, is driven by his desire to generate new life. That is the biggest psychological motivator for a man on this earth, is to generate new life and have a legacy to leave behind. And so at a certain age, when we stop thinking of what do I want this next moment to look like, to what do I envision in my life for the future, we automatically think family, security, children, loved ones. That's what we think of because we're human and that's how we're designed, right? And so I've seen that trend. And while I do think that it's getting older and older, it's not missing. It's not there. It's not that these people in our 20s, we are waking up and saying, actually, no, this is the way to go about life, is to be single and have no kids, or to have a partner but not have any kids. And people are waking up and realizing that's not what they really want. And this is a story that's been told in history time and time again. You realize that, right? It's not a new thing. We're not sitting here in 2025 and being like, you know what? I think I'm the only person who's ever thought this, but I think it might actually be better if I just date my boyfriend forever and we never commit to each other and we never have any kids. I promise you're not the only one to think that. And also, it's not going to bring you the fulfillment that you think it will. Again, it goes to the argument of instant gratification versus what do you ultimately want in the long haul? What do you ultimately want? Like, what are your ultimate goals? What are your ultimate desires? Like, have you sat back and thought about that? Like, the thoughts that keep people up at night, like, what are they? Is it, I don't want to die alone? Is it, I don't want my life to count for only what it's counted for so far? There's so much more that I want to give. There's so much more that I want to accomplish. There's so much more that I know that I'm capable of, especially in the realm of relationships and family, right? So if that's been a thought of yours of like, maybe it would be better to stay single for a little bit longer and like, pursue more selfish or just like what I want to do, I encourage you to sit and think, what do I want my future to look like? And really sit with it. And don't worry about what's coming up in terms of, will my friends laugh at me? Or is this an answer that I should have, right? Take away all of that and just really sit with it and think, hey, is it something that I really want? What is it that I want, right? And then you can take that and look, okay, is it the instant gratification things, the selfish desires that are going to get me to that place? Or do I have to put myself on the back burner a little bit and demonstrate a little bit of self-control to achieve the goals that I really want, right? I listened to this podcast yesterday and they were talking about like choosing the next hard thing. A lot of times we can overcomplicate our goals and have like spreadsheets and like a whole runway of things to do. But oftentimes it comes down to, What is the next right choice you have to make? What is the next hard thing you have to do in order to achieve that goal? Because after work, it's really tempting to sit on the couch and flip on the TV, let me tell you. But the next hard thing might be, actually, I'm going to take a walk around my neighborhood before I sit and watch that TV. Or maybe I'm going to call up a friend who I haven't talked to in a while and reconnect, because that connection is so, so, so important, right? Whatever the case may be, whatever it looks like for you, choose the next hard thing. Okay, we could take this in a bunch of different directions for sure, but I want to bring us back to that original thought of, is it marriage that's hard or is it life that's hard? And I want to talk about how marriage can actually make life easier. And in our modern 2025 world, if especially you have your news and sources coming from the secular world, that might be a very shocking statement. Okay? If you're in the Catholic world and you're listening to faith-based people and you are having that side pouring into you saying, you know, this is what we're made for and this is what we're designed for, so of course it will be better. This is still for you, but I want to bring it down to brass tacks, right? I want to bring it down into like, actually, these are proven ways that it actually makes your life better. And there are a million things that I could point out. There's a million things we could talk about, but I pulled out 3 specific ways that marriage actually makes life easier. And I want to talk about them and, like I said, bring them into the tangible so that you can internalize them and also be able to explain them to other people, whether it's explaining your side of things because you are convinced that marriage will make your life easier and bring more fulfillment because that's how you were designed, or in having conversations with others and helping them realize that, you know, this secular idea of do whatever you want to do, you do you, no timeline for relationships and like stay single as long as you can, all of that rhetoric, right? That might not be the way to ultimate fulfillment. And again, we could talk about all that, but we're going to narrow down into these 3 ways that marriage actually can make your life easier. So the first way I want to talk about is that in marriage, you actually share the load. And sharing the load looks like a lot of things. You know, we could go from a biblical perspective and think about like being equally yoked in a relationship, in a marriage, and sharing that load literally of your own spiritual lives, right? It is the express, wow, that's not a word. It is the express mission of every married couple to get each other to heaven. That is one of the things in marriage that makes marriage so unique and beautiful, is that it is now your job and your responsibility to get each other to heaven. Before it was get you to heaven, right? That's your mission, right? We have a universal call to holiness. We are called to be holy, but also to get ourselves to heaven, right? When you get married, you share that load. So in one, it's taking on more responsibility because now you are responsible also for your spouse. But in a way, it's also sharing your load. And not that you're no longer responsible for your own getting to heaven, but that it doesn't have to be all on you. And one of the ways that this can really like come about is that, like, literally, we are human beings. We are designed for each other. We're sexual beings, and we're drawn to one another to be married to one man and one woman for the rest of our lives. And there are certain drives that drive us to this, right? And so if you remain single outside of this, there are going to be temptations. There's going to be things that pull isn't going to go away just because you're not in that season yet, right? For example. And so in that way, it can actually help lighten the load of what we are tempted to or giving into or just staying all good when you get married, because then not that everything is now possible for you, but that you're living in the vocation of which you were designed for. And so there are real ways that it makes your life easier. Another way that it actually helps share your load is there's a lot of talk right now in the modern 2025 world about, I'm sure you've heard these, like a woman living in her masculine or not being able to live as much in her feminine because as single women are single for longer, we are moving out of our parents' houses. We are expected to get a career and really provide for ourselves in all of the ways of life until we get married. And so in a way, there's a lot of that, just life that you then share the load on, right? Whether it be financial, whether it be home, right? Care of the home, keeping the home running, cleaning, all of that stuff. Also the mental load. The mental load of like making sure everything's together and you're thinking about a million things all at once, and being in a committed relationship such as marriage where there are vows and you are in it for the long haul, there's really this level of exhale that you can hand off part of your mental load of just any human being carries in survival, literally survival. Like if we think about, things that we think about for our like next thing, like goal setting and things like that, a lot of times we can find it really hard to do that if we're constantly thinking about, okay, well, yeah, that's great. And I'd love to think about that someday, but right now I'm just trying to survive, right? I'm sure we can all kind of relate to that a little bit. We've all had times in our lives where we're just like, I can't think about that right now. I'm just literally trying to survive. So that mental load is important. Now, the mental load, there's also a lot of talk about this right now on the internet and social media, especially because there are a lot of wives and mothers who are bringing to light the fact that a lot of men don't know how to share the mental load. And again, this comes back to all the other elements of a marriage. Like, is your communication strong? Do they have, a growth mindset? Are you both having a growth mindset? Are you both in it together? Like, where your head's at? Because that's part of it. But before we get into that, I mean, just lightening the load, sharing the load, that's another way that marriage can actually help life be easier, because then you can share that mental load. Now, the second way that marriage can actually make life easier for people is companionship. Companionship is so vital to our health, and both mental and physical. Like, there are tons of studies done on this. And there can't be enough said about companionship, because one, it's literally how we were designed. We were not designed to be in this world alone, right? We were not. We were made to have relationships with lots of different people in lots of different capacities, right? We're made to be in relationship with God himself as our creator. We're made to be in relationship with ourselves. So we have to have a good relationship with ourselves. We're also called to be in relationship with others. And there are levels to those relationships as well, right? There's going to be the one relationship in your life that is your spouse, right? It's the most intimate. It's the most sharing. It's the most deep. and spills into every area of your life. But there's also other relationships that we're called to, like our families and our friends and our acquaintances, and even like our bosses and things like that, our neighbors, our church family, our parish community, things like that, that are really important for us to have. But this companionship that I'm talking about is like you're one person that is getting you through every up and down. And not that that's their responsibility all the time, but it's you're not alone in this life. And that is one way that we can really lighten that load for ourselves, is to have that companion with us for the rest of our lives. Now, the third way that marriage can actually help make our life easier is that it's simply the way that we were designed. And what that means for you is that by being in the reality, by living out the reality of how you were designed with your human being, as a sexual being, as an intellectual being, as a physical being, as a spiritual being, everything like that, and being in a relationship where that is fully realized, because there's a lot of how we were designed going on in that one relationship of a spouse. It can actually makes us more ourselves, because we can rest in who we were designed to be, and that makes a lot of things easier in life. Now, let me try to break this down in a way that you might understand it. Okay? It's the fall season, and so there's a lot of sports starting up, right? And so I'm thinking about sports, and I'm thinking about a football player, okay? Now, a football player is very athletic. Any athlete is very athletic, right? So you take a professional football player and you put him in a luge competition, right? The Winter Olympic sport, where they're in like a little sled and they're going down this ice path, and it's really dangerous and it's really fast, and they have to use all sorts of different muscles to keep them in and not wobble, and to get the most speed and everything like that. And the professional football player is going to be, he's an athlete, but he's not going to do super well at the luge just because he's an athlete, because it's not his sport, right? And so while he might try it out and he might be better than an average person, he's not going to feel at home in that sport. But put him on the football field and he's going to feel at home. He's going to feel like, this is where I belong. This is where I can shine. This is where I'm most effective. This is where I know the plays. I can figure it out. Even there are hardships within your own sport, but you'd rather handle the hardships in your own sport than handle the hardships in another sport that you don't know much about, right? And so getting married is kind of like that. It's being at home in who we are literally created to be. Every cell of our being, it as created by God, is created in this way where we are made for another human being. We are made for a union of one man and one woman. And yes, I'm not discounting at all other vocations, but other vocations, in the big V vocations, like to priesthood or religious life or to consecrated virginity, that is a call outside of the norm of the call of how we were created. That is a call to live, to say, this way that we were created is so, so, so good. And yet, God has something different for me particularly that I need to respond to. That is what that is. And I'm going to, and that call is to give up this beautiful thing that we were created for, marriage, on this earth to live in a reality of how we will live in heaven here on earth. That is what a vocation is. That is what being consecrated a virgin is. That is what being ordained a priest is. That is what entering religious life is, right? And so every human, it does not discount that every single human being is created in this way. We are created in this way, and it is kind of, it's not, but in this day and age, it's kind of controversial to say so. Isn't that crazy? It's controversial to say that we were created one nature as human beings and made in two bodies, a male and a female, and we're made for each other. And it shouldn't be controversial, but it is. And when we step into that vocation, when we step into that relationship, that spousal relationship, and we vow to be faithful and open to children and all of that good stuff, we are able to sit back and be like, this is the field that I was built to play on. This is what I'm good at. This I know that no matter what hardships come, I am much happier trying to overcome them with my person than in a different arena, than with different problems over there. This is where I belong. This is what I was made for. And that is literally how marriage can actually make your life easier than doing it alone, because we were made for this communion. We were made for this fundamental relationship in our lives. And that's where, if you're in a season of singleness and you are nodding along and you're like, yeah, okay, I've been convinced, this convinced me even more, and now I'm just more frustrated. Listen, I get you. I'm not saying all of this to frustrate you even further, but to tell you that when that does happen for you, it's going to be very sweet. And it's not going to be without its difficulties, but that is even more reason to spend the time that you have now in preparing for that vocation. Because no matter what we're doing, right? No matter if you're single right now, or you're dating someone, or you're engaged, or maybe you're even married already, no matter what you're doing, it's preparing you for your future. So whether you are choosing to veg on the couch all day, it's preparing you for your future. Whether you're choosing to go to daily mass, it's preparing you for your future. Whether you're choosing to be in your single season and just be sad and upset the whole time, it's preparing you for your future, right? I saw this other creator on Instagram she made this incredible analogy. And she said, if you, imagine you were going to dinner with your friend, okay? And she called you up and she said, okay, listen, we're going to go. I'm going to pick you up. Whenever you're ready, call me and I'll pick you up, okay? And she was saying how you have a couple options here. Number one, you could sit by the window staring out and just hoping for your friend to pull up, but you didn't do the actual getting ready. You didn't do the actual calling to say that you are ready, right? So it's kind of futile, right? Because you're just sitting there. Another option is you could lie. You could say, you know what? Yeah, now is perfect. I'm ready. And you could slap some makeup on. You could change your shirt really quick and run out the door. But you haven't spent any time preparing for that dinner. You're going to be flustered. You're going to have thoughts of the day running through your head, etc., etc. Or a third option is that you could go upstairs. You could light a candle. You could turn on your tunes. You could put your makeup on. You could take some time to do your hair. You could pick out the perfect outfit. You can really get in that like mode of preparing for what's coming, so that when you call your friend and say, I'm ready, you are ready and you can go to that dinner and have the best time ever being present to that friend and to yourself. And she paralleled this with, it's kind of like that when you're praying for something. Are you going to pray for that thing and then sit by the window and just hope it comes? Or are you praying and you're just, kidding yourself and being like, I'm ready, give it to me. And you're just so impatient. Or are you going to pray for it? Yes. But are you also going to prepare to receive it? And that is such a great analogy for prayer in general, but also especially in a season of singleness where you're praying for your future spouse, you're praying for that relationship, you're praying for that next step in your life to happen. But so many of us are sitting there by the window looking out and just expecting something to fall in our lap. What are we doing about it? Are we preparing? Same thing for our marriages. Yeah, you might have done the hard work to get on a dating app, find a person who's interested in you. Okay, that's a hard enough step. Everyone out there who's single knows. And you've gone through the talking stage and then you started dating and then you've gone through a decent amount of your relationship and you're like, I think I might have found my person, right? And so there's a lot of ease, there's a lot of happiness, there's a lot of things going on because it's not perfect, right? No relationship is perfect. And so then you get engaged and you're like, oh my gosh, I get to marry my person and this is so, so, so exciting. And maybe you're praying for your marriage, right? Maybe you've been praying for that the whole time. But you still could be sitting by the window and just being like, I can't wait for my fiance to step up and do everything for us. Isn't marriage going to be so great? Or you could say, I am just ready to get married. Let's do the darn thing and slap on the makeup, slap on the preparation, only doing the things that you're required to do because you're just so anxious to get down the altar. Okay, you could do that. Or you could spend your time really preparing for the marriage to come. It doesn't have to be a long amount of time, but you can use your time intentionally, right? You can seek out mentors. You can seek out a guide who can help you. You can learn from the best resources available. You can really develop yourself and your relationship and your future spouse to really be ready so that by the time you get to the altar, you're like, yeah, this is the next right step. And I'm so excited to dive into this world with you. And I get to be myself because I've done the work. And now we get to do the work of marriage, but it's going to be so sweet because this is what we were created for. So if that's you, if you want to spend your time intentionally preparing and doing the things you got to do in order for your marriage to be beautiful and natural and make your life easier rather than being hard, right? Then I have a lot of resources for you. I have resources for those who are single, who want to go through this preparation on their own, individually. And I also have resources for couples who are engaged, who are ready to really get excellent marriage prep, not just whatever is required or the book that your mom's aunt's neighbor recommended, but something that's actually going to prepare you for marriage as it was designed, but in this modern world, as a modern Catholic couple. The challenges you're facing today are old and new, and you need that guidance of both. So these resources truly are for you, and I encourage you to check them out on my website, letsbesaintsco.com. And there are so many things that we could talk about we could have gone a million different directions in this video, But we'll be back next week to chat about more. And if there's a particular topic that you'd love to hear about, please leave a comment and maybe we'll get to it. I'm cheering for you.